Hello and welcome to another episode of Stigler for the Details. My name is Alan Dickerson, known in some wargame circles as Stigler, and today we're going to do an unboxing, or rather an unbagging, of the newly released Battles for the Shenandoah, which is an expansion to the award-winning Death Valley Battles for the Shenandoah title, which was released a couple years ago, 2.5 years ago. The designer is Greg Lobach, and this is, of course, based on the Terrible Swift Sword system begun in 1976 by Richard Berg, who is no longer with us. But the series continues and is actually picking up momentum under the able leadership of Dick Whitaker, who is also the designer of the last title in the series to be released, Into the Woods. So now, Battles for the Shenandoah is adding 4 more battles to the package, which really doesn't need a lot of help because Death Valley has, depending on what you count as a battle, up to 10 battles, 8 to 10 battles in this box alone. And now we're adding 4 more. So let's take a look inside the bag and see what we get. So we'll start with the battle book, which is customary for a Great Battles of the American Civil War title. And this weighs in at 28 pages and describes the special rules for the 4 battles, which are McDowell, May 8th, 1862, 2nd Winchester, which is in June of 1863, Piedmont, June 5th, 1864, and finally Cool Spring, July 18th, 1864. So here's our battle book, and this should follow the design of the rest of Death Valley. It's nice quality paper with some illustrations, some splashes of color, especially helpful the use of color in breaking up some of these long setup charts so that you don't get lost. So here we can see a description of 2nd Winchester, and we can see how the maps, these 3rd Winchester North and South maps, exist in Death Valley. So this collection is adding 2 add-on Winchester maps. Actually 3, which we'll get to a little bit later. We can see here lots of setup information, introductions, rules specific to these battles. And also, let me see, let me go back a little bit to 2nd Winchester, because there is one of the battles in this adds something to the north. And where is that expansion? I wonder how they mention it here. Anyway, it's not one of the named battles. It's let's see, 2nd attack, Winchester's early attack. Where is it? There's an additional maplet that goes with. Maybe it's not here. We'll get back to it when we unveil the maps. So there's the battle book. Then we have the counter sheets, of which there are 2. And you'll notice these are all combat counters and chit pull markers. There are no There are no strength point markers or conditional markers or any of that, because that's assumed to come inside Death Valley. So these are your standard half-inch laser cut, nice, relatively thick brown core. And I'm not sure if the camera will focus on and pick it up, but I'm seeing here a very subtle change to the combat counters, in that if you look really close, you can see that the caricature for the unit type has been moved down and out of the way of the colored banner at the top, because it used to be that the caricatures would obscure longer names, which are also included in the banner. And also the colored cohesion box used to be in the center at the bottom, and now it's been kind of shoved over to the right a little bit. And yeah, it's a subtle change, but it's definitely one that's going to be noticeable in play. So we've got all these additional counters, 2 sheets worth, and now we've got the maps. And here is one of the, this is the larger, expansion to 2nd Winchester. So this would go on the extreme west of the 2nd Winchester map, which would be here and here, 2 full-size maps. On the back of this is the Battle of Piedmont. Or at least half of the Battle of Piedmont, I believe. Yeah, because this is a very long map. So nice colors and crisp design. Charlie Kibler always does a great job on the maps. So we've got that. Then we've got this here is the smaller expansion map for 2nd Winchester. Ah, yes, Stevenson's Depot. This is the one I was alluding to earlier. This actually goes on the far north of the 2nd Winchester map. It doesn't really seem to be mentioned in the rules, but maybe when I get into the details, I'll find it. But I know this is another small part of the Battle of 2nd Winchester, and that is backed with the Battle of Cool Spring. This is the river crossing in 1864 here. So we can see we have some fords in here to add a little interest, and I believe the Unions start in here and try to force their way across, and the Confederates keep bringing in more reinforcements. There's that, 2nd Winchester. And this, I believe, is a double-sided map that has the second half of the Battle of Piedmont, and this is the southern half. This is turned on its side, so the north is this way. And the Union, with a large mixed force of cavalry and infantry, worked their way from the north down to the south, with this crossroads and this little hamlet of Piedmont being the major objective. On the other side of this back printed map, we have McDowell, which was a very early part of the famed Stonewall Jackson Valley campaign in 1862. And it was fought for these large or tall hillsides here at the edge of town. Here's McDowell. So there's that. So we have a bunch of back printed maps, and that keeps the printing costs down, because you're not going to be playing more than one of these battles at a time. So it's not like you're obscuring anything. And then we have our also back printed sets of organizational cards for the Confederates here in the brown, and the Union here in the blue. Has an interesting kind of a texture behind it, kind of a rough denim sort of texture. And this is where you place all the turn record cards, the drawn efficiency, activation markers, keep track of routes and eliminated units on these. Then we also have two identical, I believe. Yes, identical player aid cards, one with the terrain effects chart, and the other with a slightly different version of the range effects chart, which in Death Valley appears as a fold-out two-sided card, with also the shock and the order change and all of those other things added onto it. So this is kind of an addendum, but it's interesting that they use the symbology that's on the counters to make it easier than ever to find it. And also, they've started to actually differentiate in the caricature the types of cannon. They used to have just a generic one. I think they used the 12-pound howitzer to stand in for all of them, but now you can see some subtle changes in the length of the barrel and whatnot. Very interesting. So that's the Death Valley expansion. We've got 2 counter sheets, a bunch of back printed maps, and the battle book. And all of this, of course, will fit still very comfortably in the 3-inch Death Valley box. I guess even with the 2 counter trays that they provided. So I'm really looking forward to getting these played some more. I was involved in the play testing, and I worked on the vassal modules for these battles, so I'm already a little bit familiar with them. So this has been Stigler at Stigler for the Details. Hope you enjoyed this unboxing. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content, and we'll see you next time.